what's your selection criteria for adding cameras to your vintage collection or your camera bag? Is it the brand that perhaps you've always been shooting with, or a unique design, or historical significance of a camera, or the quality of the images that it takes? Well, how about corporate decision making? Selecting a camera based on the unique history of the corporation that was behind it. And that's what I have here with the Ansco Automatic Reflex, a twin lens reflex camera that came out right after World War II by the Ansco Corporation. And if you haven't seen my previous video, Ansco the Underdog, I would recommend looking at it. It kind of covers the history of Ansco going back to 1842, preceding Kodak, the legal lawsuit and fight between those two corporations, and subsequently some of the earlier cameras that Ansco manufactured. But turning our attention back to the automatic reflex and a little bit of a history behind it from a corporate decision-making perspective. So Ansco, founded in New York City, but established itself in Binghamton, New York in 1901. With their first building, they subsequently expanded to 40 buildings there, employing 2,500 employees. Subsequently, in 1928, Ansco merged with Agfa, the large German photographic conglomerate, and for the next 13 years, they functioned actually as a part of the GAF, General Aniline Film division of Agfa, or Agfa's parent company. And everything went well, relatively speaking, manufacturing, mainly consumer type of products, box cameras, plastic folding cameras. Some of those were rebadged Agfa cameras. Some of those were unique and designed for the US market. But everything was going merrily along until December 7th, 1941, when Japan attacked the United States at Pearl Harbor. 5 days later, agents from the Treasury Department marched into Ansco's operations and headquarters in Binghamton and took over operations. They subsequently fired the German leadership, and the leadership there were German or of German origin, immigrants that came to the Binghamton area, and basically took over operations and managed it as a government-controlled entity all the way until 1965, 20 years after World War II ended. And it was during this time that Ansco decided to have a bold ambition of making a camera in the absence of German competition. So right after World War II, the thought was that it would take quite some time for Germany to rebuild. And it was a perfect market opportunity to establish Ansco itself as a market leader in photography. And actually, Kodak took a similar approach with their Ektruk, a 35mm camera, or marketing the Medalist. Where is this? Marketing the Medalist camera that I covered in the cameras of the 1940s, and I'll cover this in more detail later. But anyway, so Ansco sort of had the same ambition as to let's jump in and come out with a market-leading product. And that was the idea behind the automatic reflex. For this, they decided to employ Henry Dreyfuss, a well-known industrial designer. So what was unique with not just Ansco but Kodak as well, or for American companies, is the idea of using a designer to design their products. So Henry Dreyfuss was well known for designing things like the Bell rotary telephone, as well as the New York Central's streamlined locomotives. And some of those design elements from the New York Central streamlined locomotive is actually evident in the Ansco automatic reflex. And Dreyfuss decided he took this project very seriously. He wanted to meet with all of the department heads that were involved with the design and manufacturing of this camera, and put a lot of focus into this, into features such as usability in particular. So he brought a human centric design, which of course is well known currently, but back then most camera equipment were simply manufactured based on features, with usability and human user interface being a second thought. This resulted in things like the rounded edges instead, so that it doesn't catch on you. The elegant use of the chrome trimmings on it. And also, just from a usability perspective, he had a number of unique features. So usually cameras can be focused one way. Not so this one. So this one has a focusing knob right here on the left side, and it has the focusing scale on it. But it can also be focused with these two thumb wheels. So when you hold this at a waist level, pop up the viewfinder and you're holding it at a waist level, everything falls to the hand. You can use either thumb with these thumb wheels that are over here to also focus the camera. And then subsequently the shutter is cocked with this lever on the left, and the shutter release is this on the right. What I did was that it has a double exposure lever as well. That's what I clicked, because without film in it, it doesn't, it doesn't cock the shutter. But with this double exposure lever, I'm able to allow it to cock and activate. So some additional usability designs were similar to Rolleiflex. You're able to view the shutter speed and aperture from above. Instead of the two little windows, the shutter speed is set by rotating the ring around the taking lens, which is geared with the top lens, and it shows the shutter speeds up on top. So you're able to set that up there, and then the aperture is set with the lever down here, but it's connected to a ribbon that runs across the top, and in a little window you could observe the shutter speed that you're setting it to. So everything is controllable. You hold it very steady, which is the benefit of these waist level viewfinder based cameras, and focus on a very nice, it's not a sandblasted ground glass. Instead, it's a circly ground glass that made focusing much easier than traditional ground glasses. Not as good as the later Fresnel glasses that came out, but it is quite nice. Unfortunately, I myself struggled because the mirror in this one is pretty dim. So for me, the view was pretty dim. I had to, I used the little magnifying glass, which is activated with this little lever. It pops up, and that allowed me to focus. But it was a challenge that I'm hoping to address. I ordered a new mirror for it. Some of the other design features were mechanically traditional twin lens reflex cameras. Use sort of a rack and pinion design, and the issue with those, if I take, even if I take a Rolleiflex, is that the lens assembly is it kind of does move. So I'm not exactly sure. I mean, Rolleiflexes obviously are very well made and aren't known to have focusing issues, but the Ansco designers installed two brass sliding bearings on either side, which allow for a very precise motion. And indeed, the lens assembly here doesn't move, or basically hardly moves. So it's a lot more robust design, and ensuring perpendicular lens to the film plane. In terms of the lens and shutter, without availability of parts from Germany, and anyway, being an American company, Ansco partnered with Valiant for the lens and the shutter. They used the Valiant 83 millimeter, or what they termed 83 millimeter f3.5 lens, along with their Rapax shutter, which went from 1 second to 1/400th of a second. And this is only a triplet design for the lens. And so this 83 millimeter is sort of a trick. It's sort of zooming in on what the lens is able to do. It's basically, I would imagine, an 80 millimeter lens, or could be used as an 80 millimeter lens that is sort of, zoomed in, allowing the corners and the sides to be sharper. So that was the trick that they went for to keep costs down, but it worked quite well. So despite the triplet design, it is pretty sharp. As you could see on the images, these images I managed to take with this were on a walking tour in Boston, and both the colors are turned out really well, and the images are quite nice for this lens. It's a single coated lens, but it performs quite well. Some other unique features is the eye level finder, being a nice lens based instead of just, oftentimes it's a simple opening hole or a cutout that is in the lens shade. This one is a much more usable lens based, both in the front and back. It's sort of a lens based viewfinder. So why did this not quite work? Well, for one, it was announced in 1945, but it took them 2 years to bring it out. Remember, they let go their German expertise, their German leadership, and their German tool makers and model makers and everybody else. So that was an issue. They didn't quite have the expertise. It also took them quite some time to sort of wind down and shift from wartime manufacturing products for the War Department back to manufacturing cameras. And finally, issues and challenges with this complicated design. Indeed, I too had challenges with it, with the winding mechanism proved troublesome. So even in Ansco's user manual, it tells you that if the shutter locks up, once you wind it, what I found is that I would take a picture, I would wind it, put it in my camera bag. For whatever reason, when I took it out of the camera bag, I wasn't able to cock the shutter. I thought that perhaps I did not wind it, and I wound the film again, and then it all worked. Well, I wasted 2 frames that way, but the way to get around it is, and what Ansco suggests, is to use the double exposure lever. So if you do find yourself that you wound the film and you're unable to cock the shutter, just actuate the double frame lever, and you're able to cock the shutter and take the picture. So that was one issue. It has an automatic frame advance to it, so I didn't quite properly read the manual before attempting to use it. I just sort of jumped into it. But when you load this, use the red window in the back to line up the first frame, and then set the frame counter to 1. And then you're all set to go. Then you can close the red window and it will automatically wind to the next frame. I didn't quite do that, and I kind of wasted 2 frames there. So in the beginning of the roll. But that was user error. So with these challenges and delays, by the time they launched this in 1947, the price went up to $262.50. And they also underestimated how long it would take for the Germans to come out. So the Germans were back with Rolleiflex coming out in 1948, exporting cameras back to the US. The Rolleiflex Automat launched in 48 for $265, so basically the same price. Now that was a tried and tested design that was already well established with the professionals, and it basically killed the market for this. So by 1949, the following year, these were closing at $145, and that was basically the end of the automatic reflex and Ansco's master plans for world domination. Similar fate waited Kodak too with their Agfa. That too didn't pan out as similarly over-designed, etc. But anyway, that meant a similar fate as German cameras flooded back, and soon after that, of course, cameras and lenses from Japan arrived and took over the market. But very interesting history, and it's one of the reasons I still really like this. I like it when people, corporations, etc. Corporations are made up of people, but where they put all this energy and thought into a unique design, and they sort of try to hit for the fences and don't quite make it. I don't know why I like the fact that they don't quite make it, but anyway, it's a unique camera, and it was a joy to use, hoping to replace the mirror to get it to working. So with that, and to wrap up, please, subscribe so that you can see my next video. I will be covering the Medalist as well. So this is, I'm doing the cameras from the 40s. And by the way, my previous video was cameras of the 1940s, so take a look at that. And then I'll also be reviewing Olympus's first 35mm camera. So hope to see you soon. Thanks, bye.